Hello everybody, my name is Craig Bennett and I'm the founder and owner of TechFused Help, and today I am doing another OS X Macintosh operating system tutorial. And in this tutorial we're going to get into some basic tune-ups for a Macintosh. Basically I'm going to show you how to maintain a Macintosh over a long period of time, and these things I'm going to show you do periodically. Some things more frequently, like the updates. Other things maybe once a year or maybe once 6 months, depending on how often you use your Macintosh. But anyways, let's jump into a quick personal advertisement so you will know how to support my channel, and that way you can help it grow much faster than I can just on my own. If you would like to support us at TechFused Help, then please do one or all of the following. What you can do is you can select the TechFused Help logo at the top, and this will take you to our TechFused Help YouTube page. Or you can select the PayPal button, and that will take you to our PayPal donation page. Or you can select the Patreon campaign button, and that'll take you to our Patreon campaign. Now, saying that if you don't have the financial means, or you already done that, or whatever it may be, and you don't want to do that, but you still want to support us, you can also do some of the following. You can leave a like and share this video and any other video that you want from us, and maybe even our channel, and tell people why you like us, so other people could come and enjoy this and also help build up this community. You can also, if you like to help us but you dislike a certain video for whatever reason, go ahead and leave a dislike, but tell us what you don't like about it so we can fix it in the future. And also, as always, please feel free to subscribe and check out our other videos. And when you're checking out our videos, if you really want to support us, just go ahead and drop the ad blockers, and that way we can get our revenue. But if you want to continue to use your ad blockers, then feel free to do so. It's not like I'm not doing it. Welcome back. Now, a few things I want to mention before we jump on in. First things first is I'm running the OS X in a VMware, a virtual machine. So you're going to see some lag on my end and some things you might not experience. And sometimes I might even see the spinning wheel, and I notice in recordings it doesn't show up there for some weird reason. So there's that. The second thing, and I do have a video on how to do that, how to get OS X on a virtual machine within Windows, and I'm running Windows 8 as seen here. So as far as that goes, the second thing, which is very important, if your hard drive is about to fail, or if you have some type of hardware failure, this won't help you out. You need to take your stuff into a specialist, either at the Apple Store, or maybe some local repair shop, and they should be able to help you out. The reason for that is this is more software based, but if your hard drive is about to fail, I recommend, especially if it's a MacBook or any laptop, I don't care if it's a Windows or a OS X, you need to take it into a specialist if you don't know what you're doing, and if the hard drive and stuff is not easily accessible. Don't take it apart. Try to look online on Google, put in your model number and put in hard drive or motherboard or whatever it may be, and you should see an image of what it looks like when things start taking apart. I've seen some where you have to take the keyboard off, and that's not fun at all. That's a complete pain, and it costs a lot if you take it to a specialist. So that's a huge thing to keep in mind, or simply just go and buy a new MacBook. But before you do, back up your stuff into an external hard drive or whatever Apple provides, and that way you can get your stuff back easily. So the last thing I want to mention, and this is for legal reasons, because we're going to get into the core system of the OS X, I have to legally say this. If anything messes up on your Macintosh or your computer of any type, then it's purely on your head and not mine, because I physically didn't touch your system. However, feel free to ask questions if you feel something could come arise, or if you feel something has already come arise that you don't like, then feel free to ask, and I'll try to help you out as best as I can. But keep in mind, I'm limited with virtual machine. With that being said, let's jump on in. And by the way, not to freak anyone out with that last statement, most of the stuff is very basic, like updates and stuff like that. But let's jump on in and tackle this. So the first things first, one of the biggest things that can help you out in dealing with applications on your Macintosh is updating your actual application. So how can you do this? Well, it's the same way you download the applications on the OS X, or at least one of the methods. What you do is go to the App Store. It might be down here on the dock. It'll look something like this. Click that, and that will come up. Yours might, and most likely will, open up in the Feature tab, and all you have to do is go to the Updates tab. Yours might start scanning. Just wait for the scanning to get done, and it'll tell you what applications need to be updated. Now, and before I jump into the second part of this, you can open this up. If it's not down here, just go to the Launchpad and go to the App Store right here. It does the same thing. It's like the Start menu on Windows. So one of the biggest things that you need to keep in mind is the applications on here that it checks for is the applications you installed with this. If you installed anything through a browser or some other method, then this won't help you out at all. It's like, for example, on say Windows, if you download a program off the internet, like Dropbox, Chrome, or whatever it may be, then you might have to actually open up the program or open up some type of updater, and it will check for an update. Or you might have to periodically check for an update on some programs. Same thing with OS X. If you don't install your applications through here, then you have to periodically check for the updates yourself. The good thing with installing applications through here, and by the way, sometimes you can't get around that, things like Dropbox, Chrome, and a few other things are not on here yet. At least I can't find them. But the good thing with installing applications through the App Store is simply the thing will automatically check for the actual application. It won't necessarily install it, unfortunately, or download it, unfortunately, but it will actually show you a number and show you how many do you have available as far as updates. And right here we can see one, and specifically for the operating system itself. And you can get into a little bit more, and sometimes some developers, because I develop programs, so one thing that I do when I develop a program is put in the More tab, the description, is things I might have fixed if I did fix anything. So if you want to know what the software fixed, the application fixed or changed, sometimes you can check on the More, and it will tell you what has changed on the actual application, and maybe it fixed the problem that you used to have, which is pretty good. Or if your operating system relies on that application, maybe it fixed something to make it a little bit more stable, which is pretty nice. So, as far as the last little trick, one thing I forgot to mention is I suggest doing that, checking on for updates if the thing doesn't show that it requires an update. Maybe once every other week or something like that. Maybe once a week, once every other week. And that way it keeps you up to date. So as far as the next tip, if in this one I suggest to do 6 months to a year. What you need to, and it doesn't matter if it's a solid state drive or a platter disk, a regular hard drive. What I advise to do is check out the disk utility. To get to that, easy way is go to the magnifying glass, click on it. This is called Spotlight. Type in disk utility, and as you see here, it pulls up a few things. Click enter, and you just now successfully open up disk utility. So what you need to do is, and by the way, this shows the size of the hard drive, or for me, since I'm running a virtual machine, the allocated space I gave it off my hard drive. And you can also see maybe a USB drive and some other stuff. So from here we need to click the Macintosh, and one of the first things I advise doing on here is do a verify disk. Now, why would you want to do this? Is it's simply to make sure that your hard drive is not about to fail. Let's close that. And as far as that goes, once it's done, go ahead and click repair disk. And if you're seeing any red errors, maybe something like a operating system corruption file, something like that, then, or really even any hard drive failures of any type, take it to a specialist, because that's not an easy thing to fix, and that's something I can't actually show you over here because I don't have a Macintosh that's failing in front of me. I'm running this in a virtual machine, and if I do have any failures, I just kind of do my own thing with the virtual machine, which boots it into a safe thing, so it kind of fixes the problem right there. So unfortunately I can't show you how to fix those, and I really shouldn't. Those are really more of a specialty type of thing. So if you run into something that says operating system or OS corruption, some type of corrupted file for the operating system, or maybe a hard drive failure, a sector or something like that, take the thing to a specialist, tell them what's going on, and maybe even email them a screenshot of the log, and that way they can tell you how much it's going to cost and if they can fix it and how long and stuff like that. But given that everything came back well, or you're okay with it, click verify disk permission and then repair disk permission. Now, one thing I want to tell you right now, if you're running a regular platter disk or a solid state, you don't really need to defrag at all. Yes, there is times that you kind of should defrag, but especially with solid states, you never defrag solid states. And with OS X, again, Macintosh operating system, it doesn't really allow you to defrag. But what happens is when you open and close applications and use applications and stuff, it actually kind of defrags its own self, puts things back in the right sectors, and that way you don't really have to deal with it. But if you got up to, say for example, if you got a 100 gig hard drive and 90 gigs of it's used, it can't do this. So at that point you might want to start thinking about defragging it, or just upgrading your hard drive itself, which is probably more reasonable, is upgrade your hard drive if you need everything on the hard drive. What I personally do is just have external hard drives, and if I have to use that much, store portions of it on one thing versus another. Next, I'm going to tell you a real quick trick. If you are noticing that you're having a massive slowdown in your system and you're not really sure why, it could be because you got a lot of things going on in the background. This happens, again, it doesn't really matter if it's a Windows system or a Macintosh system. This happens kind of universally. So how do you fix this problem? It's pretty simple, especially with the newer OS X version. You can go to the Apple, click on the Apple, click on Force Quit, give it a couple seconds, and it shows you everything that is running right now, at least everything that's running as far as application wise. And let's say I want to force quit the disk utility, or let's say it's not responding and it seems to be locked up for whatever reason. I can just click that, make sure disk utility is highlighted, obviously not something else, and click force quit, and it force quits it. Keep in mind, if you are writing a document or something, this may cause portions of your documents to not be saved. If it's already saved, I won't worry about it. But if you are not really sure, like say for example, if you're writing a paper and you're just going straight right through it, and 5 minutes through you run into a problem, but you wrote a pretty good amount and it's really decent. If you force quit it, it might not save what you did. So keep that in mind, because that's a huge risk that you gotta keep in mind. But also keep in mind, it might not even save in the first place, because it might be actually locked up to the point where it won't save, and that's that. So you have to do something to stream like that to get the system back rolling, get the application back and rolling. So now, as far as this next tip, if you're running into memory issues as far as how much of your hard drive space is being used, I can give you a huge tip on how to find a lot of your stuff. But one thing I want you to keep in mind is some applications, and for Windows we call them programs, it's the same thing. Some applications, they save to many locations. There's some applications that are famous to save at 10 or even 20 different locations, and it's very hard to find all the information. So what we need to do is find useless applications, and you can uninstall them like you normally would, but you need to make sure that all the files are gone. Sometimes they're not. So as far as that goes, what you need to do is start from the desktop, and up here on the top left you will see under the this area, the Finder, you need to click Go. Now as far as this goes, this doesn't say much. You need to know how to get to the library. This is the quickest and easy way. If you're on a Windows computer or you're using a Windows keyboard, then click Alt. If you're on a Macintosh, Options. So this will bring up the library. Click on Library. So from here you need to go into the application support, and what you need to look for, appears I don't have it, so I just made a file. And what you're looking for is a folder called Sync Services, and since I'm running this in a virtual machine, I have virtually nothing on here because it's a running operating system within an operating system. But anyways, what you want to do is if you're running into memory issues, as far as again hard drive issues, as far as how much space is being used, just go to here, hold down the Command key and I, and real quick, and this will pop up and release it. Then this will tell you how much space is being used within this folder. Again, I just made it. This is in a virtual machine. Yours can be quite a bit. So what you want to do is, if it's quite a bit, several gigs or so, and you don't think you'll need some of that stuff, just go into it by double clicking it, highlights over everything that you don't want, and just simply hit the delete button, or let's go back, right click and move the trash, and make sure that you actually empty the trash once you're done. So anyways, what you can do, and by the way, the next little phase of this will be a huge service when you're looking for how much things are taken up on your system. So what we're going to do is go back into libraries, go down into iTunes, and what we're looking for is basically whatever's taking a large amount of space. Maybe you have backups of your iPods or whatever it may be. What you want to do is then go into the list, and this will show you the size. Again, this is a virtual machine, so it doesn't have anything. You might have some iTunes plugins. I don't use iTunes on this. If you play with a virtual machine, you'll find out very quickly why not. But if you are playing with an actual Macintosh, most likely you have quite a bit on here. Find out what you need and what you don't need, and look at the size and see what you can get rid of based on the size. Now keep in mind, if you do need it, and you have a large space, say a couple gigs on a particular file, go ahead and back it up to something else. And if you don't need it right now, then just put it on an external drive or some other thing, and then whenever you do need it, put it back. Just remember where you got it from. So some other areas where you can actually save some space is, again, because this is a virtual machine, I don't use the messages, but each message, it actually does take up some space, so that's a huge area. Also the mail, I actually do have that up and running, and I'm not going to show you that for obvious reasons. That obviously will take up some space, so keep that one in mind. On when you set up the mail service, keep in mind how you set it up, and keep in mind that it could potentially use quite a bit of space on your drive. Now lastly, let's do a quick blitz through it. Basically, I can't show you these parts for one reason or another, but I can still tell you how to do it. So if you got any duplicates of pictures or anything like that, then you can use Apple provided software, or you can download whatever software in order to find the duplicates and erase them. I don't have any pictures on here, or at least I definitely don't have any duplicates at all. So yeah, that's not going to be good for me to show you that on here, since I can't show you that. Now if you have duplicate songs, iTunes is your best bet for a Macintosh. There's obviously other software you can use, but iTunes is pretty much your best bet because it's kind of made with OS X in mind. And what you do when you get around to a duplicate is you need to find the lowest quality. To do that, just on the top bar where it says name, length, album, so artist, so and so on, right click it, and then go down to I believe it's bitrate, and show bitrate, and that will show you the higher quality. The higher the number, the higher the quality. So obviously if it's like, say for example 100 kilobytes per second, then and you got 300 kilobytes. Obviously 100 kilobytes, you want to get rid of the 300 kilobytes as a clear audio. So that's a huge thing to keep in mind. That might free up a lot of space on your Macintosh. Another is the books, but this is a big one, is user and groups. So unfortunately I can't show you this because I got actual accounts on here. But what you can do is you can go into user and groups and find what accounts you don't use anymore. Don't, be all I use it sometimes and not others. If you do use it sometimes, go ahead and keep it. But if you don't use it at all, like say for example, if I have a Dropbox account, I don't use it at all, I moved on to something else, just get rid of it. Simple as that. So that's a huge thing. And also, whenever you do take your computer, I don't care if it's a Windows or a Mac, when you take it to a specialist of any type, when you get it back, look at what's on the system as far as applications, but more so for user accounts. For newer Windows, you can have a little bit more access to that. It's not to this grade yet. I will get into that in another video. But for Macintoshes, just go into the user and groups. And basically what that will do is if the specialist accidentally left a account on there, you can erase it right there and then. What specialists tend to do, and don't think it's their personal account, what they tend to do is put a test account on there to make sure everything works. So make sure that you can transfer data from a cloud service to your thing, to make sure that the Wi-Fi works, to make sure the mailing application works, to make sure the whatever works, so everything's good to go. And that way you get it back and run in order. So that's a huge thing to keep in mind. Now, as far as this last part, I don't have anything to back me up on this, and I suggest that you just, for the most part, do a little bit more side research on the times and stuff. But for the most part, and this is from what's on paper, for MacBooks, you can get about a good 5 to 6 years out of them, between 2 and 5 and 6 years. More so in the 3 or 4 to the 5 and 6 years. And in fact, laptops, let's just add this in for one is laptops. You can get about 1 to 5 and 6 years, so it's about the same, depending on the grade and everything, and how much you use it. So even if it's a very, very expensive thing, if you use it quite a bit, you can end up running into some problems. Depending on the environment, maybe you're going to tropical places, maybe you're in, very dry places. It really depends on things. Some other stuff is the desktops, the iMacs, and just like regular Windows desktops, you can get anywhere between 1 and 10 years for iMacs, depending on what you get. Maybe if you get a Mac Mini or something like that, maybe it's on the lower side. I'm just thinking about getting one of those, by the way. But if you get a good grade one, you can get anywhere from a good 3 to 10 years, and it's usually within the 7 to 9 years range, depending on how well you take care of it. Like your desktop itself, you can get within that range. Now, when you get into the later years of it, it might not be worth much because the graphics, the processor, and all that stuff might be so outdated that comparing it with a brand new thing, you might want to just end up getting a new thing before that time. But if you didn't have a choice, or if you're, whatever it may be, if you're trying to save money, you could tend to get about that amount of time. Keep in mind, this also depends on if you're running a solid state drive or a platter and everything else. There's a lot of things that go in that deal. But it's on paper. Again, I don't have anything to back me up on that. On Windows computers, I actually do have stuff back me up on that with experience and stuff. Also keep in mind with solid state drives, the more you use it, the more hard drive failures you can get. With platters, and this is kind of weird, solid state drives, you can get really great speeds, and everything's located in a very confined space. And what I mean by this is the computer doesn't have to look for the data. It's usually, like, say for example, if file 1 associates with file 2, it's usually next to each other. Where on a platter, it could be on the literal other side of the platter, and that slows down the entire process even by a few milliseconds. But with platters, you can pretty much use them over and over and over, whereas until the motor gives out. Whereas a solid state has a limited rights. So that's a thing to keep in mind also when you're upgrading and maintaining your thing. But the biggest thing to keep in mind is update your system, make sure that your hard drive is okay with the checks, and also make sure that the your memory, your actual memory is okay. Make sure that you're not using up too much. So if you got, say, 100 gigs, make sure you don't get up to 90. Make sure that you stay below, say, 70-80%. Once you get into that 90 range, Macs, they cannot do their work. They require that 10% in order to allocate everything in the proper areas. In other words, you will get into a phase where you have to defrag, which is horrible for a solid state, because again, you got limited amount of writes to it, and that can kill the entire solid state. Very, very important. Also remember backup. Now, as far as other things, I advise to do some antiviruses on it. Maybe that'll free up some space for adware and some other stuff. But other than that, that's pretty much about it, without going into very specialized stuff. But anyways, it's been Craig Bennett, founder on TechViews and Up, and if you have any problems with this, then please feel free to leave me a comment below, and I'll try to help you out as quickly as possible. But also, if this has helped you out, then please leave a comment below if it helped you out. Also leave a like, subscribe, and share. And please check out my other videos and the Patreon campaign. Now, if you didn't like it, if it didn't help you out, go ahead and leave a dislike, but tell me why you're leaving a dislike so I can improve my future videos. But again, this is Craig Bennett, founder of TechViews and Up. Please leave a like, subscribe, and share, and hope you have a great day.